Thanks so much for hanging out with us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. I'm Gino Buccola alongside Mike Beer. We're getting you ready for a Wednesday Race of the Day preview out at Tampa Bay Downs. Remember, you can get free past performances on the website for every race of the day. We head on out there to take a look at the field for race number 5 on Wednesday. They'll go 1 1/8 on the turf course, 25 claimers, non-winners of 2. Coming off of one of the big days of the year over at Tampa. They had their Sam F. Davis day on Saturday. Kentucky Derby and Oaks points were awarded on Saturday. So still a good energy, a good buzz, and interesting field here because you have what looks like a vulnerable favorite, Mike, with Jamestown, who certainly has a class edge on these, but a horse who just gets himself into some trouble, doesn't like to find the winner's circle, and just a 1-4 on the turf overall. And you're going to find a lot of these horses who have not won recently or at all on the grass.
Yeah, probably. It's all about the class drop with your money line favorite, Jamestown. They're finally just sort of giving up on this horse. They're not going to try another allowance race with him. Put him in for the 25. It's probably where he belongs. He's your morning line favorite. The other horse who's dropping, pretty significantly in class here is your second choice on the morning line, the number 3 Maxi Match, and he's got a lot of speed.
Yep, he's probably one of the horses to catch in here. Let's take a look at the pace projector. You were just talking about speed. I think they had Maxi Match sitting just behind the real wild card because we don't really know what we're going to get from Hasn't Had Enough. The horse hasn't raced in 17 months. The last few times we saw him back in 2023, he got absolutely crushed. So from out there, you expect he'll be fresh, but he's just so tough to trust that you're even going to get any speed or anything at all from him.
Yeah, who knows? He's a total wild card here. He does have plenty of speed, and if they're going to come off the layoff fresh here, breaking from an outside post and just sort of let him roll out of there to see what happens, sure, he could make the lead.
Let's meet the field here from the inside. We start with Grand Yako, who showed speed in his most recent start. Now, that was first time in, 7 months or so. Hadn't raced since June, and that was on the slop. So 0 for 7 on the turf. I mean, does have some races against maiden special weights at Tampa that weren't bad, but if you're just going off of speed figures, this one will need to step up a little bit. Did lose to a horse named Life is Precious, who came back third, beaten a neck in the Pelican. I think a horse you liked a little bit last weekend who ran pretty well there. What do you think about Grand Yako?
Yeah, listen, his recent form has been on dirt, and it's been pretty good. But I would argue that he's probably at least as good on turf as he is on dirt. His turf form is fine. You're 100% correct in that he's going to have to improve, most likely, to beat this field. But there are things to like about this horse. He's got a great post here. I don't think 1 1/8 is a huge issue for him, and it might be an issue for some of the others. And I just feel like he's got enough tactical speed to get a really good trip from the rail here.
Well, the number 2 tap into your beer. I've seen the Beers with Beer segment on Instagram. I know you over there will crack a cold one every now and then, but this guy is 0 for the last 27, just 1 for 33 overall. He's actually never even crossed the wire first. His win came when he was put up via a DQ. So it just kind of shows you he's not a horse who has that kind of killer instinct late in races.
No, he doesn't. Listen, his 2 most recent turf starts, he was second in both of them. And in fact, the last 3, he's hit the board in the last 3. They're just slow races. And he's one of the horses in here that's pretty hard to make a case for.
Yeah, Maxi Match, though, is getting some class relief here, the number 3. The grass races against maiden claimers were solid, and that's where we saw him break his maiden against a $45,000 maiden claiming group at Laurel Park. And on the pace projector, we saw him sit in second. He's the one of the speed that you can trust the most in here. He's either going to be on the lead or sitting pretty close. He has the inside draw. I think he'll be forward in here. And in a race where a lot of these horses are probably going to be coming from the back, they've proved that they don't mind settling for some minor awards. It's not bad to have a horse who you know what you're going to get from. You know this horse will be forward, and many of them are going to have to probably come and pass him. So for me, it'll just be about price, Mike. If this horse gets bet and he's anything lower than 7 to 2-ish, I would not want to take him. If he is around that 4 to 1-ish range, I think that's probably fair for the trip you'll get at this level. What do you think about Maxi Match?
Yeah, can't argue with any of that. I wouldn't go too short on him, but he's a horse that I think you have to take his chances very seriously. And here, if I'm worried about anything, Gino, aside from the price, it's maybe the 9 furlongs. Not sure that this horse is going to get better with more distance, but
agree.
He's got speed. This is the right class drop for him as well. His 2 starts so far, the 2 recent ones when they moved him up in class, they're not good. He didn't run well either time. No. Those horses are too tough for him. He fits way better here. If I'm Terry Pompey, I'm telling Centeno, you break the gate running and you put this horse on the lead.
Absolutely agree. Dial him up. Has not hit the board in the last 12 starts and 0 for 18 overall on the turf. Can you build a case for this one at all?
I thought another horse who I just thought really, really tough to make a case for. I didn't spend a lot of time trying to do it. There's just not that much to like about him. His most recent start going this distance, I mean, I guess it gives him some kind of a chance here, Gino, but I'm not betting this horse.
Polar Bear Plunge comes out of a race at Gulfstream Park last time out against 25 non 2, and he did have legitimate trouble. Had to clip heels after getting steadied, lost a couple lengths, lost positioning and all momentum. So I will give him legitimate excuse for that last start. 2 starts back on the synthetic. That wasn't a bad runner-up effort, but I think that was my issue. Is it seems like he might be a little bit better just on the synthetic and on the dirt. His speed figures, his buyers are a little bit faster there. I'm also a West Coast guy. I don't want anything to do with the cold, Mike, so I'm not a Polar Bear Plunge guy at all. What about you? Do you give this horse any type of a case in here?
I wanted to like him. I'm not, way against him. His most recent start, yeah, he had the early trouble in there. And listen, sometimes early trouble is the worst trouble. After that, I thought he got a decent trip. I kind of, Gino, just wanted to see him do a little bit more running through the stretch of that race, and he really didn't do anything. I don't know. I could go either way on him. At 10-1, I'm not going to knock him. I'm probably not going to bet him either.
We have a string of contenders coming up now, starting with Rose View, who was facing a better group last time out. The runner-up came back to win next time out with the 74 buyer speed figure. 2 starts back in a similar spot, lost to a horse who had won 3 in a row, so has been facing tough company. And that race a couple starts back at this level, it was really good, Mike. It was a 3rd place finish that day. To me, this is just a horse that really, really fits, was the beaten favorite that day. I prefer this horse, maybe giving you a little bit of value, than a horse like Jamestown, who we're going to get to in a moment. Seems like it's a good spot for Rose View here.
I agree. The race 2 starts back too. I mean, he was ridden by a 7-pound bug that day, and that rider just gave this horse no chance in there. He just took him back to last. He made a run. He came wide to the stretch. He made a run in there. You pointed out already, seat at the table. Not only won that day, he's won twice since then. Non-winner 1 and non-winner 2. So they moved him up in class, and he won both of those races. So that horse is just in really good form. He got a brutal trip last time against a better field. Never really got a chance to run in there. This horse I think he's dirtied up, Gino. I think he fits really well here. I'm not worried about the 9 furlongs.
Yeah, what's nice about the 6 and the 7 who we're going to talk about, they're just a little more lightly raced on the grass. You feel like they have more upside. As you pointed out, you can make legitimate excuses for a couple of the races that don't look as good on paper, where they did get tough trips, get into a little bit of trouble. You can do that with Rose View. Go back to Rough and Rowdy, the 2 starts back race, which we have a replay of right here. That was against 16 non-winners of 2, but that was pretty good in the 3rd career turf start, Mike. This horse is really lightly raced on the grass. Will have to get a little bit faster, but certainly can, being that lightly raced just with 3 grass starts. We'll go 3rd start of the form cycle here. You see the 6 horse getting out and then closing pretty well here to make it tight and out finishing a rival there for 2nd. So I thought this was a pretty good effort.
I did too. Thought he ran well in this race. It's also, worth noting that was off of a layoff. It was his first turf start. His prior turf race, was way back in April of 2023. And I would argue, when you go back and watch the replay of that one, he might have been best that day. His trip really didn't work out there. And if he had gotten a clean one, I think he probably would have won that race. He got back to turf in that race we just watched. He ran really well in there. I don't care about the most recent race where he got rained off. I'm using this horse.
Absolutely. Jamestown, first time in for a tag. So 13 starts. They've kept this horse protected, and he has faced tougher, and he does have a couple races that would absolutely win this if he showed back up with those same type of efforts. But he is a horse who loves to kind of get himself into trouble. And not only is he just 1 for 13, he hasn't even hit the board in any other races too, right? So he really has to kind of show on the drop in class that he has a little bit more of that killer instinct I was pointing out. So I mean, he obviously fits at the level, Mike, but he's not a fun horse to bet.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, he's going to be a really short price in here, and he is the horse to beat. I don't think there's any real way to deny that. Does he have his flaws? Sure, he has his flaws, but you know what? Sometimes it's just all about the company that you're keeping, and he's been in way too tough in his recent starts. They're finally, I don't even want to say giving up on him, I think they're just finally getting realistic with this horse. He's not going to win an entry-level allowance race. Put him in where he belongs, and sometimes that's all it takes. He's the horse to beat in here. It's your call if you want to take a short price on him.
Yeah. Number 9, Bandola. Blinkers come off. This horse was on the January 29th race. He was actually in that very same race with Polar Bear Plunge. He was kind of in front of Polar Bear Plunge, one of the horses who I think kind of caused some trouble for that one. Can you make a case for this horse? 2nd start off the break. He did have a lot of time in between his last couple starts, Mike, from July to January, so he should at least be fitter coming out of that one.
Yeah, I mean, he's lightly raced enough to stay positive on. on. He's another horse. He got the class drop that he needed last May to break his maiden. Then they went right back into a couple of races that were probably too tough for him. I didn't think that he ran well last time, but it was his first start off of a really long layoff. So you could just argue that he really needed it. And he'll probably be a price. He was 19-1 that day. He'll be a price again in here. I mean, I don't love him, Gino, but I'm not going to be shocked if he runs well against these.
Completely
horses.
agree. Yeah, he's got a little bit of upside. If this is the type of horse who could get forgotten about too sometimes, and all of a sudden you see him floating up at like 25 or 30-1, and you're like, this horse should not be that type of a price at all. So keep an eye on this horse, at least for unders and exotics, as a horse who could show some improvement. And then to the outside, what do we do with hasn't had enough? Hasn't raced in 17 months, and not even that layoff, but you go back to early on in his career, he had like a 15-month layoff. Then he's a 7-year-old who only has 6 career starts.
Obviously, he's got a lot of issues, and he's hard to want to bet. And here, obviously, the last 3 starts before the long layoff weren't good. And then you get to the start before that, Gino, he breaks his maiden right on the front end, 79 Beyer speed figure. So listen, he's got a race in him that would make him really, really tough in here. I'm probably not betting him, but it's not like he's impossible in this race.
And he has some speed from the outside. Time for US Pace Projector had him right on the front end. Let's move to the selections here, Mike. Looked like you and I were kind of doing the same thing, where we did feel like the 8, Jamestown, is the horse to beat. We've got him in the under spots, but that next tier of horses, I think, are solid. You can get a couple different options. I went with the 3. I thought the 6 or the 7 you could make a case for, who might be better prices than the 8. And I think that's the way we kind of set this race up for ourselves.
Exactly. I'm not way against the morning line favorite in here. I don't really want to bet him. I mean, if this is a race that I'm going to get involved in, it's going to be because I'm going to try to beat him. And I was sort of torn between the 6 and the 7. They were my 2 horses in here. I went with the 6, but I could have easily gone with the other one.
Yep, totally agree on that. I think that next tier, all very logical. Best of luck to anyone playing the Wednesday race of the day. Remember, you get free past performances at DRF.com.